Hi guys, Ryu here, and this video is gonna be aimed at anyone who starts with Blender but they also are interested in add-on workflow of a hard surface, okay? So the focus on this video is going to be creating something really simple and proving the point that you don't need anything complicated to create a really nice render. We're gonna be taking a very simple cube and creating some, cool shape out of it, some container, a cipher container. And we're gonna put it in a very simple scene and render it. And I will show you how little you need to create really compelling renders. Now what you need to understand that modeling and designing and detailing, all that texturing is important, but if you do not know how to render, you will never have a really nice portfolio. And portfolio is what you're gonna be judged by, clients or potential employers, etc. Okay. And if you want to sell your stuff, if you want to actually start making money with 3D, you do need that portfolio because that's your business card, okay? So today we're gonna design something really simple. If you're an absolute beginner in Blender, I mean, you don't even know how to move a cube, I would highly recommend you watch my other video series, which is specifically tailored for, beginners of Blender. But if you do know the basics, I think you're gonna be fine. You will need HardOPS and Boxcutter and machine tools to follow this video because I'm gonna be using all three add-ons. Machine tools are free and Boxcutter and HardOPS are paid. If you don't have them, there's a link in the video description, so hop on them and grab them. They are arguably the best add-ons for creating hard surface, and I couldn't live without them. They speeding my work immensely and saving me a shit ton of time, okay? Time is money, so, get them. Now we're going to design something really simple, and I mean really simple, and I want to show you, how little you really need to create something really cool. Okay, so we're gonna grab a cube, Shift-A, and let's add a cube, all right? If you want to learn basics of HardOPS and Boxcutter, I also have a video on that. It's kind of like a 20 minutes crash course on that add-on. In terms of settings, very easy. All you need to do is go here once you install HardOPS, to that menu, enable this Auto T panel, Boxcutter notification, and Q menu sequential, and the Q menu prefixes, and that's it. Okay, just simply enable these. And in Boxcutter, all I do is I go here and go to Input, and I enable this right mouse button to cancel angle. That, these are my settings for both add-ons. In terms of shortcuts, we're gonna be talking about it a bit later if you need them. But in terms of machine tools, I will show you which menus I'll be using in this video, okay? So here we're gonna be using Smart Vet, Smart Face, Cleanup, and I don't really need focus here. And just enable all these. We're not gonna be using them, but these are the menus I'm using when I'm using machine tools, so you can copy that. And also disable this garbage, okay? This turning off curvature and cavity in, when you switch modes, and save preferences, and you're done, okay? Then go to Alt V menu, enable cavity, so we're gonna be able to read the shape a bit better. You see that? It just reads a bit better, and we're good to go. All right. So with that cube in a scene, we're going to scale it. All right, so SX, and we're going to scale it a little bit. That's a bit too much. We're going to scale it on Z axis, so SZ, and maybe make it a little bit wider, so SX. And now I'm going to add a loop here. So go to edit mode, and with machine tools, you do it really quickly, guys. You press tab, and this is your mode spy, okay? So you go to vertex, face, edge, or object, and you can switch between object and edit mode. And you can do this very quickly once you remember the position of, of these elements. So for example, if I want to go to vert, I'm going to press tab, move my mouse and release, okay? If I want to go to edge, I'm going to press tab, move to edge and release. If I want to switch to object mode, I'm simply going to go top, okay? So it's really quickly to switch, and you can switch from object mode to face mode with one swipe of the mouse. You don't have to go to tab and press 1, 2, 3 like in vanilla Blender, okay? It's just much quicker. So I'm going to be using basically, mainly this pie for machine tools. It's really handy, and I honestly couldn't live without it. So there you go. Let's go to edge mode, and we're going to drop a loop in here, okay? So we're going to press Ctrl R and drop a loop. And now when you click, you can actually move that loop left and right, okay? And then when you position it where you want it, just simply click again. If you want to move it again, you can just go GG and move it on and you're gonna slide it on these edges, or GY and move it on the y-axis. Okay, now let's go to face mode and scale it. So SX, scale this face, and we're gonna scale this face a little bit too. SX, scale it a little bit like that. And I think we're cool. All right, awesome. So now what we're going to do is we're going to apply scale. Now, scale is something really important in Blender, and whenever you scale something in object mode, which we did, right, you will notice that when you go to T panel and item, with this object selected, you will see here scale. By default, this scale should be 1 by 1 by 1. So when I'm going to add a new cube here, shift there, add a cube, you'll see my scale is uniform. Whenever I start to scaling something on either of the axes, you'll see that the scale is going to become non-uniform, and that's only in object mode. In edit mode, you can do whatever the hell you want, and scale is going to remain untouched. But in object mode, it's going to be a problem, and this will affect the way you will be running bevels, or cutting or arraying, solidifying. So many operations in Blender will be affected by scale. So for example, if I select this object, go to edit mode, I'm going to select an edge, and I'm going to start beveling this without applying scale, you will notice that this bevel is actually not really uniform. Okay, it just kind of goes, it's sort of biased to the right side, right? But when I'm going to apply scale, so I'm going to press Ctrl A and I'm going to apply scale, the scale is going to get reset. And when I'm going to go back to edge mode and start beveling, now you see that the bevel is kind of round and even. Okay, so applying scale is a really important thing to do. Cool, so we applied scale. Let's select these edges. So let's just alt click here to select this loop. Let's shift click here and shift click here. Okay, and we're going to bevel this, Control B, right? And we're going to scroll my mouse, and on the bottom here you can see segments. Now I advise you to get into the habit of choosing an even number of segments. Okay, and I'll show you in a minute why. Let's go with, I would say, maybe 8 is fine, something like this, and apply. Okay, cool. Now the reason why I said that even number of segments should be your kind of a habit is because when you're going to be creating game assets in the future and you want to create a low poly out of high poly, which means you want to reduce the amount of geometry on the item, the easiest way to go about it is by reducing the bevel sizes or bevel density. Okay, so here if I wanted to select every single edge in the middle, okay, of that bevel, I can do that because I have an uneven number of edges and even number of segments. These two outer edges, okay, these two are supporting edges that support flatness of both faces. You do not want to move them or remove them. All right, you want to alter only whatever is inside of the bevel. So if I grab these edges and X and dissolve them, right, let me just do this again. Let's just select all these and dissolve edges. See that my bevel resolution is going to get cut in half. Okay, so it's going to be half as dense, and you can keep going until you completely dissolve this bevel and you're going to become a chamfer. Okay, even number of segments is a key to creating your hard surface models. All right, so now what we're going to do, we're going to slice this box here. I cannot really use my verts to change the shape of it, so I could drop these verts down, but you can see what happens. It just deforms the entire face because of this bevel here and because there's a bevel in here. But what I can do instead, I can actually slice it, okay, with Boxcutter. So I'm going to go to D menu and change from box to n-gon, and we're going to run an n-gon here like this. Then before we do that, we need to switch the way our Boolean behaves. Let me explain. Boxcutter will allow you to align to an object, which means, for example, here I could choose this face, and in any orientation of my view on my camera, I could start drawing an angle on this face. It's going to align itself to that face. You see that? Right? It's angled. Now what we want here is we want to actually draw in view mode. So you need to press Shift V, switch from object orientation to view orientation. Okay? And then when you're going to draw that, you're going to be drawing in view mode. Okay? So here, and press B for bevel. And when you scroll your mouse, you can see how many bevel segments you currently have. Let's go with 6. Now bevel, if you move your mouse to the left, you can reset it and create a chamfer. And you can reset it again to the left and then right to create a bevel. So bevel, chamfer, bevel, chamfer. We want a bevel, so let's just create a bevel and slice it. Boom. Now what you do not want is you do not want these two bevels to overlap. It's going to be a shading problem. So let's go to settings and let's turn on the wireframe and see how we're looking. We could be looking a bit better, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to move that cutter. So Q, and we're going to recall it F scroll. And with F scroll, you can scroll through all cutters on the mesh. We only have one cutter, so no biggie. We're going to click to activate it, GY, and we're going to move it on Y-axis a bit deeper. So these two bevels are not overlapping, okay? It's just going to save us a bit of a headache. Shift 2 and hide that. Q, settings, turn off wireframe, peachy. Another thing we're going to do, we're going to mirror this to the other side, okay? So select the object, Alt X with HardOPS, and you will see a menu on the top. That menu is a mirror menu, and when you press Tab, you can access, advanced options. And when you press D, you can actually see that menu here under your cursor. So it's the same menu, just simply kind of, under your cursor, wherever your cursor is, okay? The same with Tab, gonna be a detailed menu, okay? So by default, HardOPS mirror will apply a modifier, which means mirror modifier to that mesh, okay? So we want to mirror on x-axis, which means we need to click here to mirror from right to left on x-axis, which is a red axis, right? It's X, Y, and Z, okay? So click here and boom, and it got mirrored to the other side, all right? So we got some shading problems here, no big deal. So now we're gonna add a bevel, so press Q and bevel, and automatically HardOPS gonna add 3 segmented bevel. We're gonna make it smaller, so it's, kind of really nice and tight. Awesome. And on top of this, we're gonna add weighted normals. So Q and Alt click on sharpen, which will add weighted normal modifier at the bottom of the stack. HardOPS automatically sorts all the modifiers, okay? If you go to Control tilde menu, you will see that here you're gonna have auto sort modifiers. You can turn them off and on. You can decide which ones you want to be sorted. But basically when you add booleans, mirror, bevels, etc., they're gonna be sorted automatically in the correct position, so you don't have to deal with, any additional mess. Now I'll show you how to create an inset boolean. We're going to run an angle cut from here, and then down, and then here. And press B for bevel. Click, then move your mouse like that. So hold middle mouse button and rotate your scene. Press E, cut it through, and X 3 times. And you'll see inset boolean. Press T to adjust solidification. Right? So we can adjust it and click, okay? And it's gonna create an inset boolean, which is really cool. Awesome. So now what we're gonna do, we're gonna cut a handle here. So we're gonna press D and we're gonna run a box. And we're gonna cut it in here like this. And press B. And let's reduce this. So press Tab and then press B again. And we're going to move the mouse to the left to reduce this kind of a curvature of this bevel a little bit up to here. And we're going to cut it through, but we're going to press X to slice it, okay, and apply it. This is going to apply slash, meaning it's going to be, separate geometry. Now what I want to do is I want to create one more cut here in the front, like sort of like a vent. All right, so let's cut this here with a box, and we're going to rotate it like this, and press V and X. And you can see that this will array our cutter, but it arrays it on the incorrect axis, right? So let's just do it again. We're gonna do it differently. So we're gonna draw a cutter here, right? R to rotate it. So it's going to actually match this angle here, right? And we're going to position it somewhere here. Somewhere here is fine, actually. And we're going to shift click, which will cut this mesh, but also shift this boolean to life. We're going to apply rotation. So Control A, apply rotation. And now we're going to be able to apply array. And press X to change axes. There you go. And let's select, I don't know, maybe 5 of them. like this. So now what I want to do is I want to scale that. So since we apply rotation, okay, we cannot anymore scale it on the local axis. So SZZ will not work, right? Because normally when you have an object, okay, let's say cube, and you want to scale it on local axis when the object is rotated, right, on x-axis, for example. So when you press S, Z is going to be global, but ZZ is going to be local axis, okay? See, that's a local axis because the object was rotated, so the local axis got rotated too. But here the problem is that we applied rotation, so rotation is, scaled down to 0, which means we need to use a custom orientation. So let's go to face mode, select the face on the top here, and let's go to global, and let's click on a plus. This will create a custom orientation, and then GZ, and we can scale it down a bit, you see, create something a bit more like that. Go to array and hold shift, and we're going to squash it down a bit like this. Create something a bit more, a bit more appealing like that, and drop it lower to the bottom, and then we're going to press Q, and I'm going to click on shift bool. What this will do, it will shift boolean from cut to slash, okay? Shift it to remove that, and we're good to go. We're going to apply this boolean here, so operations multiply. I'm going to go to edit mode and select everything with A. And now what I want to do is I want to scale these, scale them down. But you can see this is one object and it will not scale properly. So I need to separate them first, okay? I'm going to press P and I'm going to separate them by loose parts, okay? So each of them now is a separate object. Go to object mode and they all selected, but they all share one origin point, which is here. That's the origin point they share, you see. Now I want to assign origin point to each of them. So press Shift S with machine tools and origin to geo, and this origin point is going to get assigned to each of them. We're going to change transform point to individual origins, and we're going to scale them like this, okay? And manually move them in here like that. And it's going to create a really cool, sort of like a pattern design, okay? Awesome. Let's grab this handle because, we need to work with that a little bit. So now before we do anything, I want to create a chamfer on top here. So I can select both of these. So this one and this one. But before we do that, let's apply booleans, okay? So let's go here to operations and multiply. And we're going to select this one and this one. Go to edit mode. And we're going to select this edge here. So click here, shift click here, shift click here, control click, control click, control click, shift click, and control click. And then we can control B that and scroll down to create a chamfer. Not too big, just kind of like that. And you can see that our loops are being slid a bit. So what we're going to do is go here and turn off loop sliding. This will help a little bit with the sliding of the loops here and create a bit more of a even sort of a bevel. All right, cool. Now here you can see that we have a bit of a problem because our bevel is gone. And the reason for that is simply because bevel by default runs on angle. And the angle is 30 degrees. So if any edge is of a lesser angle than 30 degrees, you will lose the bevel. So if I hold shift and start dropping this value down, there you go, you see it's 29 degrees, we get the bevel back. So in this case it works perfectly and we're good to go. Now you can do the same thing with HardOPS. You can simply click on the mesh, press Q, press bevel, press A, and now watch this 30 degrees in the middle. I'm gonna move my mouse to the right, you see, I can move my mouse and change the angle. So I can set 29 degrees and click. So it's the same thing, okay? In any case, if you need to see additional menu, always press H and you can display additional menu for HardOPS or Boxcutter, okay? So we got that, and now we need to fix this handle here. So let's go to edit mode, select this one and control click up to here and GZ, and let's move it up. And don't forget to switch here from local back to global because otherwise it will not work. And let's let it, move it a little bit higher. And what I want to do is I want to create kind of like a handle here. But now if I want to cut this through and I want to maintain an even thickness, it's going to be a bit difficult because you see that this one is tapering. So we're going to use a really cool trick with HardOPS alignment tool, okay? We're going to select this face, right? And we're going to align to it by going to Q ST3 mesh tools and align to view. And then you can hold shift and scroll your mouse, hold control, scroll your mouse, or hold alt and scroll your mouse. Okay, this is a really handy tool, guys. And I want to align it in a way that I'm going to be perfectly aligned to this face. And this side face here is going to be sort of perpendicular to my view. Okay, so like this, and click. Then go to object mode, press D for angle. And we're going to cut it here like this with an angle. Okay, one more time. Right. All the way here. And now when I'm going to move my mouse up, you see that dot? Now when the dot turns into a color dot, that means the line on top is flat. Press space to cut and you're good to go. And then we're going to Alt X and we're going to mirror this with HardOPS. And you got the perfect cut going like this through this tapered mesh. Nice little trick. Here we could create some kind of an opening. So D. And we could create some kind of a cut here. You know, like a long one. Like this. Press B and slice. Awesome. Cool beans. Then, you know, this cutter is still live. So what we could do is, for example, go to Scroll, scroll the mouse till we get the cutter. And we could, for example, scale it to make this, you know, handle a bit thinner, which I think is going to look a little bit better. Okay. Maybe that's a bit too thin. Something like this. Yeah, that will do. Now in the front here, we're going to also cut some kind of like a, you know, I don't know, terminal or something. We could do it in here, actually, it could be interesting. So let's go to the top view, and we're gonna cut this with an end gun. So we could go from, actually, we could go from here. This could be interesting. Go from here, like this, and all the way here, and outside like that, and here and here, and then press B for bevel, make it a bit smaller, and we're gonna cut it through. So grab the dot and move down like this, and press T for solidification, and you can adjust it with shift. And all right, this will do, I think, and click. We're gonna have to mirror this to the other side, so select this main shape, Alt X, and mirror, so it's actually mirrored and, you know, consistent, right? Now if we're gonna apply this shape in the middle, so we're gonna grab this and, you know, let's apply that. So operations, multiply. We could grab this shape in the middle here, so go to edit mode, select that, press L to select this solidified piece in the middle, P, and we're going to create a selection out of it. Go to object mode and select this piece, Shift S, and we're going to move this origin point to the geometry, because at the moment these two pieces share the same origin point. Shift S and to geometry, okay? And then we're going to go to edit mode, select this edge here with shift, and create a bit of a, you know, bevel interest here with, let's say it's 8 segments is okay, kind of something like this. It's gonna look pretty cool. Here we could create some wedge cuts, so the D menu, and select that. We could create a really deep wedge cut, but in object orientation, so Shift V, switch to object, and from local change to nearest edge. This will align you to this edge, hopefully. There you go. And we're gonna cut it in and press W for wedge, hold Control to create perfect wedge and click. And this will work, and we're gonna Alt X and mirror to the other side. And that looks really, really cool. All right, awesome. So that's that. Now here is going to be an interesting thing we're going to do. We're going to grab that cutter, which is not applied yet. So let's F scroll this, not this one, the other one. So F scroll, grab this cutter here. There we go. And we're going to shift it to, yeah, we're going to shift bool to a slice. And I'm going to go to back view, and I'm going to slice the top part off. So let's just go to box cut, and let's just slice this bit off here like that. Okay, so we're going to be left with this bottom part here. We're going to apply this, so operations, multiply, select these two edges here, okay, and Control B them. Right, so let's go to local view and let's see what's happening here. That's better. and create something like this. It's gonna look really cool. There we go. Awesome. So this cutter here, this one, we could actually either slash it or SX and scale it, and GX and move it out here. So it's not gonna be super deep, it's gonna be just going a little bit inside, okay? So GX, maybe create something like this, okay? Right? Or it could go across here through that mesh, and this one could be cut shorter. So this cutter here, we could slash from the back. So we could just cut it with a box like this. And we're gonna get a really nice design here. Shift 2, perfect. Here in the bottom, we're gonna use another tool. We're gonna select it in edit mode, okay? And we're going to shift, click on curve extract to create something like this, right? Maybe it's a bit too thick, so let's go to modifiers and solidify and hold shift and scale it down a bit, right? Cool. And we're gonna cut it with an end gun, right? In view mode, so shift V and view, okay? And we're gonna cut it somewhere here, right? Like this. And press B for bevel, make it smaller. And cut it. And we're gonna get this kind of an interesting shape. Now here in the back, we could grab a box and shift V, switch from view to object. And we're going to draw a cut here in the back, like that. B for bevel, T for solidification, and X for slash. And what it will do, it will create 3 cuts, okay? I mean 2 cuts. One in the middle and one outside. This one in the middle, we need to rebevel. So make this bevel smaller. And we're gonna increase the solidification. So F scroll, go to the cutter and solidify and increase the solidification, okay, to something like this. And we're gonna also increase the amount of bevel to, let's say, I don't know, maybe 12. Okay, shift 2. And we're going to drop that, okay, in. So select it, multiply, GY, and move it inside here. And this bit here, we're going to apply this boolean, so operations multiply. And we're going to select this this face here. All right, press L, P, selection, and then object mode, shift S, and to geometry. And we're going to move it outside, okay, a little bit. And we're going to, inset it. So press I to inset it a bit, extrude it and scale it. Extrude it and then S to scale it, okay, a little bit. Create kind of a, back part here. We could create some kind of a plug or port or whatnot. Switch to circle. So here with the circle, what we could do is enable these snapping dots. So when you hold Control in object orientation, you can actually precisely determine where you want these circles to be drawn. What I want to do is I want to actually draw a line across here. So I'm going to symmetrize it down. So Alt X and press D, symmetry, and I'm going to symmetrize it down. So I'm going to have a line in the middle here. And I'm going to connect these two with a J as well. And draw another cut here, so Alt R. And I'm going to be able to draw a circle here in the middle. So Control, hold Control, and then draw a circle. You can increase or decrease the amount of verts, which are on top, holding Shift. So hold Shift and scroll up. Let's make it 38. And then E, extrude it in. And Shift T to taper it, right? Press 1 to mirror to the other side. And click. You got these kind of like a ports. Got some shading problem here, so let's Alt click on Sharpen to introduce weighted normals here too. This could be some kind of a screen here, but quite frankly, I like the empty space. Screen could be somewhere here in the top. We could have some buttons here, whatnot. We actually have some buttons here, so we could just simply grab a cutter in object and run a cut here like that. B and E, extrude it. And let's just move it on x-axis, or sorry, y-axis to the other side here, because it's mirrored. Press T for solidification and simply click. Let's just apply that. So operations multiply. Let's grab these two and GZ and move them up. Control B to, you know, bevel them. Let's use 8 segments is enough, and you got like, you know, 2 buttons on top. I think it looks pretty cool. Awesome. So that will do. And I think we're done. So now we're going to texture this. So let's go to look dev. And here I'm gonna switch this HDRI to my personal favorite, which is Abandoned Slipway. You can get it on polyheaven.com. And if you wanna upload your custom HDRI here, click that cogwheel and you simply install from file, you download it. Mine is Abandoned Slipway 4K HDRI, okay, and then save prefs. So you can then choose here custom HDRIs for your look dev. And we're going to apply a matte here, so Alt M with HardOPS and click. And I want to make sure that this matte, you know, kind of makes sense for me. So don't want it to be metallic, I want it to be plastic. I want it to be rougher. I want it to have some clear coat because it will create a really nice kind of like a reflective surface on top of it, like a glossy one. See, it looks like a glossy plastic. And I want it to be quite bright, okay? So, you know, quite bright, right? So now with this selected, I could Control I to invert selection, Shift select this one, and simply copy matte to all these other items. But then I could click this button here, which will create a copy of that matte. So when I'm gonna change now the color, I'm gonna be changing color only of that matte I copied. Okay, so I wanna create the interior. I want it to have white brighter, and the exterior I wanna have darker. So this one I want to have darker, this one I want brighter. Okay, so let's just make it brighter, and this one let's make it a bit darker, right? Not too dark though. I'm not sure if this should be white or should be darker. I think this looks a little bit better, personally. The buttons could also be darker, so you could, you know, select the buttons and simply Control L and then P, selection. Then select the buttons, Shift select this one and copy. And this will look really cool, I think. The part in the middle here should be darker too. That will do. Right. Okay, cool. So I have a really simple design, guys, and we're going to add a scene to it. Okay, so Shift A, add a plane, and we're going to scale it by 3, so S3, actually a little bit more, and drop it down, so side view, and GZ, and drop it down here. And we're going to move it a little bit higher, so GZ, and we're going to solidify it down. So solidify it down, and we're gonna add some matte to it. It's Alt M and just add blank matte. And for now we're gonna leave that, but I don't want it to be metallic, and I want it to be a bit rougher and probably a bit darker than this container, but we will see. Maybe this will do. Maybe. Let's add some clear coat and clear coat roughness. There we go. And now let's add camera with machine tools. So press page down, and if you click that, you will add camera to view. If you click again, we can change the focal length. Let's go with 135. It's gonna be quite compressed. Press N to collapse this panel here. Let's zoom in so we can fill the screen with the camera. Page down, and let's lock it to view. Now when you move your camera, you will move, you know, move in camera view with the camera, so you can zoom out, zoom in, whatever you want. I think we're gonna go vertical on this one. Okay, so we're going to create a vertical render, and let's just go with 1440 by, let's go with 2045. Okay, sorry, 2048, and then page down and unlock. All right, let's just zoom out a little bit so you can see that. Lock to view again, and let's zoom in, and let's just sort of hold shift and set it in. So what I'm doing here is I'm trying to render this in a way that I can see more or less the model. Okay, like a bit of a top, bit of a front. I can see here, I can see almost the entire model, right? So I'm selling the whole image, the whole idea with literally one render, right? Granted, I don't see the back, the back of this model, but this will show you quite a lot. If you shoot from a lower angle, like this, for example, it's gonna be a bit more aggressive, right? This looks really cool, but I don't think in this case, it's a container, we need to do that. This will, do just nicely. So you can see a hint of the top, and you give it a bit more bottom, so you give it a bit more ground than the top. It's really nicely zoomed in. There's some room here for some logo, maybe some signature here or here. So it's really nicely well balanced, okay? Page down, and let's just unlock it. Now, I'm going to adjust the bottom. So now the background needs to be adjusted. So RZ, hold control, and let's align it to the camera, right? And SX and scale it on X-axis. You don't want this environment to be bigger than the camera. There's no point. So grab this edge, GG, and move it in, right? Because the more background you are having in your scene, the more light you're gonna obstruct. Remember, light is bouncing from all over the place. So if you have more elements in your scene, the less light's gonna be visible. I see this is a very common mistake when people render. They have these massive backgrounds that do nothing, absolutely nothing, because they're outside the camera view. GYY, and let's move it in here. We're gonna create infinite background. So easy, drop it up, GYY, move it like that. So this angle is gonna create a nice reflection of light. We're going to control B that with a lot of bevels, okay? Let's go with 36. It's gonna be nice and smooth, and sharpen it. Click on the camera, control 0, and we're gonna have to scale it up out a bit. So SXX, scale it out a bit. And again, we don't need this, so select that with control X and delete faces, right? And this is all you need in terms of background, guys, okay? Now we're gonna be rendering not in AV, but we're gonna be rendering in cycles. I'm in cycles here, but in order to actually adjust the environment and adjust the lighting, I will be using EV for the time being. We're going to rotate the environment, so we're gonna go here. We need to open the shader editor menu, so we're gonna create another window. Let's just drag it with mouse, so click and drag. And we're going to go to shader editor, switch here to world. And now if you do not see these nodes, you simply click on this and control T. Now if these three nodes will not pop, what you need to do is go here to preferences. Now the add-ons installed Node Wrangler, okay? Because Node Wrangler is an add-on that does that. It simply allows you to use shortcuts for renders. Now let's just collapse it a little bit. Let's move this one up a bit, this one down. All I need from this shader editor, okay, is two things, all right? I need to be able to see the strength and the rotation on Z-axis, because that will allow me to rotate these HDRI around my image to select correct lighting. So now I need to load my HDRI, and I'm going to select this abandoned slip away, which is 16K. Let me just use names. There we go. Boom. And all I need to do now is rotate it, but I'm going to be rotated as an EV because it's faster, on Z-axis to change the angle of light, okay? And if you want to turn off the visibility of your HDRI in your viewport, you go to film under render and you turn that off, right? And you see that now when I'm going to be rotating my image, I'm rotating the lighting, and lighting actually comes from over there. So comes from over there, bounces back to the camera at 90 degrees. It's a really good lighting situation, okay? It's a bit dark, so we could go with 1.5 here, okay? And we could switch back to cycles. And we could, manipulate a little bit with this flooring here because it's a little bit kind of glossy. So let's go to the matte and see what we can do here. Could increase the roughness on this one a little bit, right? We could maybe make it a bit darker, so this one stands out a bit more, or brighter. You could go the other way around, make it clinical, right? But I think super white doesn't work here. You You could make it colored. It could also be interesting. Slightly blue. That's a really nice kind of, suggest like a medical device. Okay. So you could, you could do a lot of stuff with your renders, guys, alright? And this is a super simple, super simple way of rendering. Now we could cast a bit more light from the other side on this darker side here. We could add a reflector. So grab a plane, GX, move it in here, RX, RYY, and 90 degrees, and RZ, and rotate it. And we could scale it like this, and scale it on Z, so SZ, and SXX, or SYY. Scale it, and make it larger, and add just a regular matte here, okay, so just a regular matte. And you will see that if I'm going to now rotate this plane, see a light's gonna reflect back from it onto this object. Look what happens when I'm gonna turn it on and off. See what I mean? So you could create some really interesting renders using reflectors. Conversely, you could make it darker and flag it, so create more shadow, more drama. You could add some color to it, for example, warm color, or cold color. It's up to you what you want to do, right? So in our case, I wouldn't mix it with colors. I would probably open it up a bit so it's really bright, but not super bright. Okay, something like that. And this will do. This could be a bit more yellowish, to be honest. It would be actually quite interesting. It would be a bit yellowish. It's gonna stand out really nice against this blue. Okay, so just tiny of a yellow color. And this kind of suggests sort of a medical device, like a medical container, some kind of a cooler. Now here, I think maybe we need to make this a little bit more rough. Now we could have metallic floor, to be honest, would be also interesting. We could increase the roughness even more, and increase the clear coat roughness just a tiny bit to reduce the reflections here. And I think this is good enough. This could be a bit brighter, so a bit more, kind of cheerful, right? All right, that's good. Now we can render it. So let's see. Now, in terms of render settings, okay, what I'm using is I'm using Compositor because it just renders me stuff faster, right? So in terms of sampling, I'm using 250 samples. I don't even know why we have 256 here, but 250 will do, right? And I don't use the noise. Light paths, well, these are okay, but you could go lower than that. You could go 8666666, right? And we don't need volume because we have no volumetrics. Turn these on for sure. Then under performance, mine is set to 2048, but you do need to check it with your machine, so it's just system specific. You could start with 256 here. This is gonna be basically determining how many frames at once your machine's gonna be rendering. And then, of course, you need to be in GPU compute here under device. And here in compositing, all right, you need to have enabled denoise. Let me just turn it off with Control and right mouse button to remove that. You need to have denoise enabled. Now, in order to see these nodes, you need to use nodes here, and you will see that node and this node connected from image to image. You need to then press Shift A and find the noise, right, and add it to the equation and connect then normal to normal and albedo to albedo. To be able to see these two, you need to go to here, okay, this tab under the noising data and enable it, otherwise you'll not be able to see that. And that's your render basically set, okay? And you're gonna go to render or layout, and we can basically render this. So let's just go to camera view, Control 0. And if you want to save a bit of VRAM, I would suggest you switch from rendered view, which is 4.8 gigs, to regular view, which is 2.9. It's gonna be easier on the machine to render, so I would suggest switching back. So let's try it, guys. Let's go here and render the image and see what we're gonna get. save image as, and let's just save it here on our desktop. Let's go to Photoshop and see how we're looking. Okay guys, we look pretty good out of the box. We can give it a bit more oomph. So I'm gonna be using some add-ons for Photoshop. One of them is gonna be Infinite Color. I really like it. It's a very quick add-on. It allows me to create very quick toning for my images. Boom, that looks much better already. And then I'm going to be stacking it with some other stuff. So let's go to Control J. Let's go to Filter, Nick Collection, which is another add-on. Fantastic. Color Effects Pro filter from Nick Collection is brilliant. I'm using a lot of them, especially, let me just install the new version, especially the Pro Contrast, which is just fantastic. And see, I can create some really nice contrast images here. That is looking pretty good, I think. We're gonna inject it before the infinite color kicks in, so let's see what's gonna be the result of it. I don't like this. I'm going to actually do this after. So let's click here, Shift, Control, Alt, and E, and Control F to rerun the filter, which we're gonna rerun this latest filter we applied, which is a Pro Contrast. Okay, that's pretty punchy. So let's see what we can do with this. That's really punchy. We can do interesting stuff here. Add a mask here and run a gradient from top to bottom. So switch the colors from black to white with X and hold Shift here and run it down like this. And this will create a brighter top and darker bottom. Let me see that now. That's pretty interesting, and we can reduce the opacity of this entire render here. There we go. So it's a little bit darker on the bottom, a bit more punchier, which is going to be cool contrast to a text on the top. And I'm going to simply drop some text here. Let's drop this PNG here. That's our logo, and I'm just going to put it somewhere here. Make it a bit smaller, or we could make it bigger across the whole image. This could also be interesting, but I'm gonna make it small. You know, drop it somewhere here. And what we can do is we can control click that. We can go to curves, disable this image, and simply make it brighter like this, just to cut out. It's gonna be very subtle. Really nice effect. And there you go, really simple, no decals, very simple design, very simple image. The right hand side's a bit bright, it could be a bit darker. So what we could do is we could darken down the right hand side of the image. So let's Shift, Control, Alt, and E, and we're going to, you know, we're gonna go to Filter and Camera Raw. We're gonna darken down the left hand side. So let's drop the exposure just a little bit. And we're gonna drop the highlights. And we're gonna drop the whites. And exposure just a little bit too. And there we go. And click OK. And we're going to run a gradient tool to the other side. So mask, gradient tool, and run it like this, right? So it's going to be brighter on this side than on the other side, so something like that. See what I mean? And then we can remove it from darker tones. So double click here and move this slider over here, hold Alt, split it, and this will remove it from darker tones. It will only affect brighter tones, meaning this brighter spot's gonna be affected mainly. See that? It's a really cool trick. So let's just split it a bit more. There we go. And now the balance has shifted to the front. We can reduce the opacity a little bit to kind of balance it a bit more. A little bit more. There you go. And that's it, guys. Really simple render, and you could drop it on your portfolio and, you know, start building your business card. with really simple renders, so you can keep training and keep exercising, keep learning HardOPS, Boxcutter, and all these add-ons in Blender and hard surface, and keep designing some really cool stuff and populating your portfolio, and then simply replacing older images that you think they're not so good anymore in your eyes with something better. But you at least have something over there, and people can very quickly understand what your level, what you can do, what kind of design you're into, and make sure that your portfolio is going to be kind of focused. So for example, if you like sculpting, stick to sculpting. If you like hard surface sci-fi, stick to it. If you're designing cars, that's even better, because it's very niche portfolio, right? There's a really great focus on it, and it will sort of bring a very concentrated attention to your portfolio. Posting everything, it's not the best idea, because then you're jack of all trades and not really good at anything. So I would suggest focusing on something that you really like and pushing that through your folio. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. If you would like to learn a bit more about HardOPS and Boxcutter and push your skills much further, like I said before, we're having a membership offer on our website, blenderbros.com. Hop on the links in the video description. It's a great package with a lot of perks, so read about it, and if it's for you, then it's gonna be great to have you in that community. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.